Cimoooooooo!
Welcome to Tech Tuesday, a weekly series where we discuss some awesome tech cards as well as help make you a better player. This week's card is Devastation Virus. A rather old card, but it's actually one of my favorites from Flaming Eternity, a card that's going to just completely infect your opponent's deck. Now, Devastation Virus is a trap that you activate by tributing one dark monster with 2,000 or more attack. Then after that, you're going to check your opponent's hand, field, and the cards that they draw for the next 3 turns during their draw phase, of course. And what's going to happen is you're going to destroy any monsters that have 1,500 or less attack. Now, why is this card a good tech card? Well, let's look at some of the top decks of the current format and see how we can best use Devastation Virus to our advantage. So to start with, we're going to look at Performage Pendulum. Now, the thing about Devastation Virus is that this card basically shits on this deck. Outside of the fact that it won't destroy Luster Pendulum himself, it pretty much destroys every other card in the deck. And what's important is, if you can get this card off early, if the Pendulum monsters are still in the hand when you activate Devastation Virus, they're going to get sent to the graveyard rather than the extra deck. And that's huge, because that's not going to allow them to recur any of their monsters and can totally just win you the game outright from there. And keeping on the theme of Pendulum decks, Specters is another deck that's just slowly increasing with popularity as the days go by. And Devastation Virus can hit pretty much every card in this deck as well, except for maybe one of the main monsters, if I'm correct. And what's cool about that is, again, if you hit the Pendulum monsters while they're in the hand, they're going to go to grave rather than the extra deck. But the other important thing is, too, is that the fact that these monsters have protection from destruction effects, it only applies when they're on the field. So Devastation Virus, again, is another way you can deal with these monsters just preemptively and can just outright win you a match. While it's not the most popular deck in the competitive scene, side frames are still a deck that you're going to see at pretty much every level of competition, because the deck is still pretty good, even though it relies on essentially your opponent playing Yu-Gi-Oh! To be able to function properly. But Devastation Virus, again, can solve all those problems, assuming they don't have, the Epsilon to be able to stop it, but it will hit essentially every side frame monster outside of the driver, but it's going to hit the ones that actually summon themselves and can basically just stop you from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you hit all of those, they're going to be left with no cards, and you're free to do whatever you want. And last but not least, I think another really important aspect that Devastation Virus covers is hand traps. Because essentially you can hit every hand trap with Devastation Virus, so you don't have to worry about them ever again. You can hit Effect Veiler, Max C, Honest, you can essentially just hit any of these just really annoying hand traps that you don't want to deal with, and then you're going to be completely clear because your opponent also has to reveal their hand to you, so gaining that knowledge as well is just key. Now, tributing a dark monster that has 2,000 or more attack might seem like a little bit of a specific stipulation, but it's really not, because as long as you're playing a deck that can at least go easily into rank 3s, 4s, or even 7s, you have a lot of options to be able to go into to be able to fulfill that requirement. You can go into Downward Magician, you can go into Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, you can go into any, really, King of the Feral Imps, there's another one, Big Eye, Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon. There's so many just really easy Xyz monsters to go into, or rather extra deck monsters I should say, that running this card, even if you don't have a monster in your main deck that can fulfill the requirement, shouldn't be anything you have to worry about. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Devastation Virus. I say you definitely want to pick up a playset of this card now, because as Performage Pendulum and all these other Pendulum decks just keep growing with strength, this card's viability is only going to go up from here. Thank you all so much for watching the video. We'll see you next week.
Cimoooooooo!